I now call the November 1st, 2022 regular meeting of the City Council to order. Tonight's invocation is given by our Erlanger Police Chaplain, Brian Nevins. Thank you so much for being here.
If you would please pray with me. Our Lord and God, in this month that we observe a giving of thanks, we come to you with all prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, in the promise that you give peace that passes understanding with the mind of Christ. Thank you for your great provision, for a great place to live, for this privilege of gathering in self-government, recognizing the responsibilities and freedoms it carries. We ask that our city officials would be protective of our rights and take their responsibilities to the residents of our Friendship City with the gravity and wisdom they need and deserve, without personal agendas or pursuits. We ask that we also bring before you the coming elections, that you raise up men and women of virtue, integrity, and a heart for humble service. In your word, you promise that if any need wisdom, to simply ask, and you will give it generously. Therefore, we pray for Mayor Fetty, for our city manager, Mr. Wolfeck, Chiefs Rader and Godsey, and for this assembled council. We thank you for their service and are asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom and insight for the needs of our citizens and a single mission in their pursuits to meet them. Hold them to a high standard of integrity. We ask for your blessing upon them and their families. Grant them personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. We pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Erlanger. And it is in the most blessed name of Jesus that I pray. Amen.
Mrs. Hoffman, if you can please take roll.
Miss Elmore?
Present.
Mr. Cahill?
Present.
Miss Kyle?
Here.
Mr. Skidmore?
Here.
Mr. Hermes?
Here.
Mr. Doan?
Present.
Mr. Meyer?
Present.
Miss Skidmore? Here. Miss Nicely? Mr. Nipper? Miss Reckers?
Here.
Miss Jasper Lucas?
Here.
Thank you very much. You've received a copy of the minutes of the August 23rd, 2022 special council meeting and the October 4th regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as presented. Ms. Reckers, Ms. Kyle, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. You've also received an agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any additions to be made at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as presented. Ms. Kyle, Ms. Elmore, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, our first special presentation tonight is our business spotlight, and we have Mr. Mark Fields from the batting cage. Thank you so much for being here. And I think you're all set up there.
Thank you for having me here. Thank everyone for having me here. I appreciate the opportunity to meet you and talk about my business a little bit. So, I own the batting cages, right off Dixie Highway behind Johnny's Car Wash. So I thought I'd start off a little bit just talking about myself shortly, and then we'll get more to the more interesting stuff. But, my name is Mark Fields. Most importantly, I'm married with a proud parent of 2 kids, a 12-year-old boy and a 9-year-old daughter. We live in Fort Mitchell, so just right down the road. I was born and grew up in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, which, if you don't know, is 30 minutes east of Lexington, which is why I sound like a hillbilly and maybe why I am a hillbilly. So anyway, I went to college at Muskingum University in New Concord, Ohio, small liberal arts college. After that, was fortunate enough to go to Ohio University, where I got my MBA and Master of Sports Administration, and probably most importantly, met my wife, Leslie Fields, who, as I mentioned before, we're still together today, living in Fort Mitchell. So earlier in my, I guess, life career, I was fortunate enough to live a few different places, Florida, Maine, and Wisconsin. Obviously, we have lived in Northern Kentucky since 2013, and just really love it here. This is sort of our home now, and where we're choosing to raise our family, and it's just a great place to do so. And obviously, the city of Erlanger is a big part of that. So I started leasing the batting cages in August of 2020. So I leased it for a little over a year, 14, 15 months, before I was able to purchase the building at the end of last year. So I've owned it since December now. So coming on quickly a year. So we'll talk more about that now. So this is sort of a little, I feel funny because there's probably a lot of people in this room that have a longer history with the business in the building than I do because of how long it's been here. But for those who I guess are not aware, the building itself as it is now, the current building, was built in 1988. It's my understanding there was sort of a building there beforehand, but the current building was, like I said, finished up in the late 1988. Johnny Simpson, who used to own and run Johnny's Car Wash, built the building sort of after he was sort of done and retired from running Johnny's Car Wash, started the batting cages. His son, Jeff Simpson, owned and operated the building for a number of years. I think after Johnny passed away, I leased the building and I bought the building from Jeff. And I want to just take a moment here. I'm assuming a few people know Jeff. Jeff, without Jeff's help, I wouldn't been able to buy the building. It wouldn't be there today. Jeff could have sold the building to someone else to make it a warehouse and not a batting cages. But I'm really lucky that he sort of honestly just chose to let me buy it from him at a negotiated price, and it still helps me today when there's something going on that I can't handle. Just Jeff, I can't say enough about Jeff. Just an overall good person and human, and for those who don't know, obviously still runs Johnny's Car Wash today. So inside the building, the setup has changed throughout the years. There used to be more cages. We have 5 cages now. 10 total machines. Used to be more. I think we've sort of there have been some changes to sort of more open space throughout the years. There was a basketball goal in there, or maybe 1 or 2 for a while. That's been gone for a little bit, well before I was involved with it. So it has changed. Currently right now, we're one of the only places in the area, including Cincinnati, that has multiple pitching machines where kids and adults can go in and get some swings, without someone throwing to them. We have 10 total machines. 2 of them are softball related, 1 slow pitch softball, 1 fast pitch softball. And then the other 8 are just, for baseball related purposes. The overall setup of the building and, what we're going for is just for, mostly kids to come in and be able to just hit in a safe, welcoming atmosphere. 14, 13 and under is where the largest number of sort of people are, playing baseball. So that's what we've set the building up for, and that's sort of how we're running the business. And it, seems to be working all right for us. So, sort of lastly, we're on that last slide here, I guess. Some of my goals, with the business and, what I'd like to do with it, moving forward is, as I sort of mentioned before, we really are set up for the recreational, baseball player. Don't get me wrong, we have a lot of high level, kids that come in that are on some more of these select and elite teams. That's great. We'll take them, and we love those kids. We see them a lot, and the parents. But you know, I really want it to be someplace where if you're learning to play baseball, if you're just learning the game, baseball or softball, I should say, you know, we're a good place for you. I tell a lot of the kids that come in, you know, you're here to practice. You're here to get better. You know, there's no strikeouts in here. You can swing and miss 10 times. It doesn't matter, you know. But being in here working at something, you know, at this game, you know, getting a little bit better, you know, that's sort of what this whole thing's about, to, you know, teach them how to work at something. And, you know, hopefully they carry that on, you know, later in their lives. So, you know, there's not a lot of judgment or pressure in our place. You know, I really would like to sort of do more on the softball side of things with sort of camps and clinics inside there. It seems to be a girls fast pitch softball, I should say. It seems to be just an underutilized area here. As far as what I have done with them has been very well received, and it doesn't seem like there's enough programming out there for them. And you know, besides everyone feeling welcome, you know, I think eventually I would like to, you know, we do a number of camps and clinics and lessons, but taking that outside of the building and maybe on some, you know, fields in this area, hopefully in the city of Erlanger, and doing more like programming like that so more kids can get involved and just, you know, learn to play the game. So that's, you know, I'd like to do more of that moving forward. So, I guess really lastly, and I don't want to bore you all, just thank you for letting me be here and talk about my business a little bit. And as I mentioned before, you know, not from here, got a chance to live a few different places, but really enjoy Northern Kentucky. And it's a great place to live and raise a family. And I have lived enough places to know that doesn't happen by mistake, and that doesn't happen by accident. And it's a lot of the people in this room who sort of make that happen. And I'm guessing a lot of your work often goes unthanked a lot of the times. So I just want to say, hey, you know, thank you. As a guy that's, you know, running a business here, and everyone that comes in, you know, have been so nice and been welcoming, and it's really been enjoyable for me to get to know the people, the community, the parents and the kids, you know, and sort of see them, you know, on a weekly basis or how often they come in. And again, just, you know, thank you. It's a really cool community to be a small part of. So if there's any questions, I'll take them, but if not, that's okay too. All right, thank you all, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here, Mark. You're a phenomenal business owner, and I love your tribute to Jeff Simpson because he's a great friend of mine, and he's a great man. So appreciate that. And you provided just the perfect segue to our next agenda item. There's a proclamation that I'm going to read, and it's for Small Business Saturday. So the city of Erlanger has over 400 businesses within our city limits, and the majority of those are made up by small businesses. You know, whether it's Johnny's, whether it's the Batting Cage, or Skyline, or Dixie Chili, or Gold Star, there's so many small businesses within our community that make it friendly and inviting, and just a wonderful place to come and visit and be a part of our community. So thank you for being a part of that community. To all to whom these presents shall come, whereas since 2010, Small Business Saturday has become an important part of the holiday shopping season, such as Black Friday and Cyber Monday. In 2011, the Senate passed a resolution in all 50 states to support Small Business Saturday. Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and all U.S. territories also recognize this day. Supporting a small business helps create and maintain jobs and shows commitment to our community and kindness to our neighbors. There are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. In 2021, 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business, and 54% reported they dined in or ordered takeout from a small business. The city of Erlanger celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. The City of Erlanger encourages all residents to support their local business owners by shopping and dining locally on Saturday, November 26th, as well as throughout the year. Now, therefore, I, Jessica Fetty, Mayor of the City of Erlanger, Kenton County, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim November 26th, 2022 to be Small Business Saturday in Erlanger and do commend this observance to all our citizens. Given under my hand and the seal of the City of Erlanger on this day, November 1st, 2022. Thank you. All right, next on the, Dave, thank you. I didn't even have to ask. Wonderful. All right. So our public comment, we're going to start, we have 5 individuals on the sign-up sheet. So Mary Beth Flaherty, sorry about that. That's okay. If you'd like to just state your name, and the microphone is already on, so you're all
right.
set.
My name's Mary Beth Flaherty, and thank you, Mayor Fetty and Council, for letting me speak. I've lived in Cherry Hill for 44 years. The last 33, I've lived on Cypress Court. Now, everybody in Cherry Hill is aware of the semi-problem that we have right now. I am directly affected by it because as of September 19th, when we had the truck come through our neighborhood, take out the power, a lot of people were without power. We didn't have it for about 8 hours. Some people didn't have it for longer. That truck came in on Cherry Tree, took a left onto Peach, went down Peach, exited through Queensway, took the pole out at both ends of Peach. Now, I know they want to close down Old Erlanger Road, or I don't know if they're going to close it at the end of Sycamore. I know they're going to do it for the construction. Here's the issue I have with that. In the past few weeks, as of the most recent was this past Thursday, 2 trucks went down Spruce Tree, came in at Queensway, took a right onto Peachtree, took a left on the Spruce Tree, went down the Tulip Tree and down Sycamore to go that way to get to the factories or the warehouses up there. My question is, if you shut down the road, what are you going to do when we have trucks coming in the front end of the neighborhood? They get down to find a permanent stopping place. Are they going to back all the way up Old Erlanger Road, up Sycamore, until they can turn and get out of the neighborhood? Doesn't sound like that's going to work. I don't know if anybody's looked at that, but there's been several incidents because my daughter, we own a property on Spruce Tree. My son and daughter-in-law live there with our 3 grandchildren. She is the one who, I even have it on camera, on her video camera, these 2 trucks within 5 minutes of each other at around 1:15 in the afternoon on October 27th, going down Spruce Tree. And the one truck that's on camera was flying down the street. She says when they come up the street, they fly. When they go down, they fly. I don't want to see somebody get hurt, but I think we're at that point. Now, my husband saw one come through Rodeo Drive on October 17th as he was coming back from a doctor's appointment. But the guy turned left and went up to the light. So he stopped, talked to the trucker, and said, "Why did you come through that way? You're not supposed to be in the neighborhood." Well, he has a fancy GPS that cost him $700, he said, that's only for truckers, and that's the way it took him. But he realized when he got to the end of Rodeo, going straight on Maple or turning right and going down Cherry Tree was not going to be a good option. So he decided it was better to turn left and go out at the light. But that is part of the issue. And I know you know it's some of these GPSs, but what I am concerned about, and you should be concerned about too, is if these trucks come in the front way, they're coming in at Queensway, they're coming in at Cherry Tree, I know they're coming in at Rodeo. What are you going to do when they come down to where you've got this permanent blockage that they can't get through? How are they going to get back out? Is it going to be a concrete barrier where you tell them, well, okay, if you guys want to hire a crane, we'll come and get a crane and you can pay for it to move the block so that you can get out? I don't know if anybody's looked at that because it's not just them coming in the back of the neighborhood. They're coming in the front, and I know you know that's definitely the problem because I just came back from my daughter's in South Carolina. I was there for 2 weeks. When I came back from South Carolina, there's a sign right up there by the marathon station on Donaldson that shows no trucks are allowed to turn into the neighborhood. That wasn't there when I left to go to my daughter's. So I know that's a recent sign. But evidently, I don't know if there's one down at Queensway, because I know that's, part of the problem is part of our neighborhood's Boone County, part of it's Erlanger, which is an issue too. But it doesn't seem like just shutting down that road is going to be an answer to this problem if they're coming in the front ends.
And I'd like to talk to you about that, because that is not a done deal,
Yeah.
or, I mean, it's been a suggestion, however, it's not one that has been moved down the court by any stretch of the imagination. When Houston North starts the traffic, or the
Expansion.
construction, sorry, they're going to close that down for a period of time. However, that's going to be out of our control. The state is going to shut that down for a period of time. There will still be the ability for them to turn around, because it's not going to be any kind of concrete barrier. Really, it's going to be closed off at Erlanger Road, or the Houston North and Sycamore Tree where it connects. That's where that's going to shut down. So they'll still have the ability to turn around once they get down to the bottom. But we're going to be able to understand how that plays out with this temporary closure. So there is no done deal. There is no decision that's been made. We're still identifying what are the options here. We're trying to utilize all of the resources we have available to change the GPSs. However, there are GPSs that we don't have control over at all, or we don't even know exist, because they are special trucker GPSs. We can do the Apple Maps and the Google Maps and some of the others that we know of. However, there's even GPS systems that download maps, and then you gotta pay to get new maps downloaded into your GPS. So that's part of the struggle. To think that we have control over that completely, it's not possible to change every single one of them.
Well, I know that's the conundrum. I just didn't
Yeah.
know if you guys were aware how many of them are coming in the front entrance to the subdivision now, too.
And I guess what I would want to make sure
Yeah.
is every single time you guys see a truck, call 911.
Yep.
Because then we can respond immediately. And what we're trying to make sure we're doing is we're collecting all the data. And we're understanding, because Lieutenant Nezzi was just out there. I think it was
It was the day that the two trucks went down
Yeah.
Spruce, because I called.
So Lieutenant Nezzi was out there, and he was
Yeah.
then able to talk to the truck driver and understand, oh, he's looking at a completely different GPS than any other truck driver we have communicated with. So, calling every single time so that we can see how frequently this is happening. Is anything that we are doing making it better? Is it making it worse? What other steps need to be taken? So understanding the Queensway issue and communicating with Boone County, that's another step in this process. The additional signage, how can we change the signs to maybe more clearly indicate that you just go straight forward? I know that's, the signs all along Houston North are kind of insane, the amount of signs, but maybe we need to change what the sign is saying. So we're trying to look at all the different options. I hope you know that we've tried a tremendous amount of.
They can't move those cement. She wanted to know if you can move those cement barriers there, but I know the other.
No.
Oh,
You know how they got cement barrier dividing the road?
yeah.
I'm sorry.
That won't solve the problem if you put she's saying put cement barriers there, but that won't solve the problem, because then, like I said, trucks get down there, they're gonna get trapped, and then you got a cement barrier, they can't get around.
Yeah, so we've
Yeah.
narrowed the
Yeah.
turn radius.
Yeah.
So we've put the boulders, we've put the dividers down the center, we've put the
Oh,
signs
yeah,
all
I'm
the
aware of
way.
everything. I've even
You know,
talked to some of the officers that would sit at the bottom of Sycamore
Yeah.
and wait, and, and I talked to some officers the other week where one got stuck coming up Cedar Tree
Mm-hmm.
and couldn't make the turn there, and they were Boone County officers there.
Yeah.
So it was, and I confronted one come down Peach one day from Queensway, and here comes this semi at me, and I just stopped and just sat there. And I tried to tell them, you shouldn't be in here, and of course, they start talking like they can't speak English.
Well, and my challenge to you
Yeah.
is call 911.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to put yourself into an unsafe situation by engaging with an individual that may or may not know where they are or what they're doing. So my suggestion would always be call 911, have one of our officers engage with this truck driver, and because they're going to collect all kinds of information from that individual to say, why did you come down this road? How are you getting this information? And properly getting them out of the neighborhood. But every single time, call us, because we want, it's not a bother. We want to know every time.
Yeah, I just called the police department. I didn't
Yeah,
know if that's
that's
something I
fine.
should call 911. I don't think of that as an emergency.
But
you
it
know.
is, it
Okay.
is, because it might not be at that moment that it's an emergency, but it could turn into an
True.
emergency with them tearing down the power lines, hitting a car on the side. It could turn into an emergency. So if we can try to be proactive and head it off at the pass before it turns into something worse, that's awesome. And I don't ever want you to be afraid to call 911, because we want to know these situations and we want to respond to them as fast as possible. Because we're collecting data and we want to make sure that anything we're doing, we got to know if it's working or not. That's my ask of you and everybody that's here from Cherry Hill. Call us anytime you see a tractor trailer where it shouldn't be.
I'll pass it along to
Please.
friends and family that I know that live in
That
the
would be
neighborhood.
wonderful. I really
Because
appreciate
I know
it.
people on Sycamore too, that they're getting tired of it.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I know it's not your fault, but
yeah.
it's just like, aggravating that,
Yeah.
we can't seem to get them to get the drift.
Yeah, I mean, we've communicated with the businesses that are up there. We've had a lot of communication with them. Unfortunately, some of the businesses that are up there, they hire independent contractors as
Correct.
their truck drivers. So their interaction with those individuals is very minimal. I think Coca-Cola has their own truck drivers, and that's probably why you barely ever see a Coke truck in the subdivision. Because they've been able to communicate that properly. And, Emmy Randall's done a great job of communicating this issue with the businesses that are up there and say, this is what we're experiencing. And that's part of her main responsibilities, is to have that interaction and that relationship with our business owners. So, continuing to have that conversation with those business owners and say, this is still not fixed, please work on it. So please know that we're trying from every angle.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have anything else?
No, that was the main thing. I mean, part of my issue was too, many years ago, when we lived on Pine Tree, which is right where that house got torn down for the Duke substation. It's probably been 35 years ago. We had a semi come through the neighborhood, took out that pole, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, ripped the electric out of our house when we're trying to get ready for work. So I can sympathize, because some people on Cherry Tree got the power ripped out of their house too, and you're responsible for that.
Yeah,
And it's not a cheap fix either, so,
I'm sure that's not
So-
fun at all.
yeah. They'd probably like to find the truck driver so they could get
Oh,
his
I'm
insurance
sure.
information
I'm
too, along
sure.
with Duke. So,
We cannot find the company, but we can find the driver. And in a lot of situations, we are charging them criminally if they destroy enough property. So we are doing everything in our power to keep this from happening. And if it does happen, making it very clear that they've done wrong. I know that when they pulled the power lines down, that driver was
I'm trying to
charged
figure out what they
criminally.
were doing in our neighborhood at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I didn't think the warehouses were open that late.
They're probably delivering at all hours of the night.
Probably, so.
I do see your hand waving, however, I do have a list that I'm supposed to go down the line. Did you sign in by any chance? No. Okay. Okay. Okay, can you hold on one second? I'm gonna go down the line, and then I'll call you up in just a minute, because I'll have to have you come up and speak in the microphone. I'm sorry? Okay, okay. Scott Miners is next.
Hi, my name is Scott Miners. I live at 4223 Deer Chase Drive, and I'm here to hopefully persuade you all to vote no to the ordinance changes on the flagship park. It kind of came as a surprise. I found out on Saturday that just happened by chance to see that the ordinance is being changed. Some concerns are when the park was originally built 12, 15 years ago, I can't remember exactly when, 2010-ish, 2008, somewhere around then, it was decided then that the park would not be used for organized sports. The parking lots weren't big enough to handle it, and it was designed to be, a neighborhood park. Since then, there hasn't been a lot of organized sports. I know there's been a couple soccer teams that have practiced up there, a couple baseball teams, and most recently there's been a cross-country team that's been practicing up there. So obviously the ordinance isn't being enforced very much, but we're concerned about just the removal of everything in the ordinance, what that's going to bring in the future. The parking lot behind my house backs up right up to the park. And the parking lot back there holds 14 parking spots, and I believe 2 of them are handicapped. If you've ever been there on a Saturday, that pond that's over there is a very highly fished fishing pond. So there's usually a lot of cars there, people fishing. There's a lot of people walking. So I'm concerned that this could push people out from doing the normal things that they're doing. Because we've had, when there's been baseball practices and things like that up there, just a couple times, that parking lot fills up and there's cars in and out from when the practices start and finish. The same goes with the runners. I've been kind of surprised that it's been going on as long as it has been. I didn't really notice it a lot till this year because there's 40 or 50 runners currently, twice a week, and when they're running on the track, it kind of pushes everybody else off the track. You don't see as many people walking. Tonight, I noticed just while I was eating dinner, there was like 10 different people out walking the trail tonight on this, just on a night like tonight, a cool evening like tonight. So I'm worried about what the ramifications of just dropping that ordinance altogether are going to be. I mean, if it leads to people wanting to have soccer practice up on that field, and I know there's no goals there or anything like that, that somebody's going to want to put soccer goals. If they have practice up there, is that going to lead to games? If you've ever been by Richardson Park on a Saturday or Sunday when all that stuff's going on, there's cars parked everywhere. And my concerns for me and for my neighbors is where are all these cars going to go? And we don't want them all through the neighborhood and parked all through the park. I think that's all I have. And I speak for a lot of the neighbors on the street.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So vote no.
Yes, Ms. Reckers?
When we talked about this a few weeks ago, I think part of the discussion was that there would have to be a reservation process for the organized sports. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So do we have any parameters built around that from like a procedural standpoint? Has that been communicated out to anyone? Because I mean, I've been up there, I've seen, pop-up soccer games, and it's not really drawn a lot of crowds, but the running I haven't seen. But I know it's there.
When they're running, there's cars parked all the way down the
Yeah,
hill. to
and
the
I've
main
heard it.
road.
I just
So
haven't.
that's not-
I haven't physically been up there on whenever they run.
So it's a mess when that's going. They don't park behind our house, fortunately. But ultimately, at least, we certainly don't want to have organized games back there because there's certainly no parking for that. That's the,
So are there guardrails that we can build if we do this, if we repeal this from a restriction standpoint? Are there guardrails we can build procedurally to like prohibit games and keep it limited but still friendly to?
We can do that. Right now, it's not that way. Right now, it's just that only one league can reserve it at a certain time, and it doesn't address parking. It doesn't address whether it's practices or games, but we can always add other things to the procedure.
Okay, thank you.
And for clarification, that's the procedure we use in all parks, right? I mean, it just basically, we would be including that permit process in all parks.
That's correct.
And I also just want to clarify, there's no intention to add any features at this time to Flagship, like permanent goals or a baseball field or anything like that. So the chances of someone wanting to use the field for, there's not really a field up there. The chances of someone wanting to use the park for a game, in my opinion, are slim because there's no bleachers, there's not a baseball diamond, there's no soccer field. We wouldn't allow anybody to come in and paint lines or anything like that because it doesn't exist now. If something's not up there now, there's really no intention at this time to put any new features that would attract a team. I don't know if that helps.
What you're saying, that makes sense, but the ordinance stops that now. If they take it all away from the ordinance, there's no reason that somebody can come in and say, I want to put soccer goals up and I'm going to supply them.
We can say when they call it a reserve, there's not a soccer field,
But there's
so
a big soccer field up, there's a big field that could be.
there's a
turned into
field, but it doesn't have lines.
But our concern is. that-
Right, I completely understand. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a misunderstanding that we were going to put in new features that would attract teams to want to use it, because there's not a field there now for baseball. There's not a soccer field there now. I just wanted to make sure that was not misunderstood.
That's understood. My concern is that they could easily be both of those up there without much work.
I think that there could be some opportunities. I mean, as Mrs. Jasper Lucas had said, I mean, there's no intention to add anything like the features, but there are features that we could put, I mean, in the grading of the space. I mean, if it wasn't a big flat space, if we put some mounds or something that might go through that area and landscaping, it would certainly prohibit
But then you take, I see
large
people up
organized-
there flying kites, playing, running their dogs, doing all sorts of things, so I don't want to take away from that
Sure.
either. My concern is just taking all that out of the ordinance. Is there a way to put in the ordinance that there's no organized games? You know, is there something like that? That's sort of my biggest concern.
Yeah.
Other than all the in practices, there's cars in and out. You know, there's a lot of people that walk in and out of that park. And the biggest concern is all those cars, especially on the deer chase side. I don't know, I don't see as much on the main entrance side, but there's a lot of people who come in and out of there, and there's not many parking spots. And when people fish, they're already parking on the side over there illegally, and there's just gonna be cars everywhere. And there
Yeah.
already is when there's stuff going on, kind of pop-up events. So that's my concern, and our neighbor's concern is that we don't want this to just be able to, somebody could come in next week and ask to play soccer up there, and there's really no way to stop it.
Yeah, I think
And
we'd
then-
have to
and
do
then-
that
and they're- And
procedurally.
when the runners are coming, they're up at the main park because they're just running around the field. If somebody wants to come play soccer and they got to bring all their stuff, they're not going to want to walk from the main entrance all the way over to that flat field. They're going to park back on the deer chase side and walk up the hill right there. That's right there. And I just
Yeah,
want
and
to avoid that from happening.
I think that's where I was going with this, was that, you know, we've talked about and we've addressed the soccer and the football and the large field sports, but I hear you saying also that when the runners are there, they're pushing, you know, it's not necessarily intentionally, but they're pushing people off the walking trail, or people aren't utilizing the
Making
walking
them
trail while they're
uncomfortable.
there.
Yeah.
So there might still be another issue that we need to address
I don't know
with
if there's a
that
way to
as well.
maybe need to rethink it a little bit before we
Yeah.
decide to just kill the ordinance altogether.
Yeah,
That's just my
okay.
concern.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Miners?
Thanks.
Thank you. Kathy, vote.
Hello. I live in the Lakemont community, and Flagship Park is a little gem. It is a gem in our community, and is used by kids and, I mean, all kinds, like runners and stuff, but children and their parents come to our community a lot to use that park. I've been up there with my grandchildren, and also you have I've seen before where they've had a bus come up with kids from a school, and also vehicles full, with children, and I figured it was probably from a school. But it's a gem in our community. And I would hate to see, and I apologize because this might be what you're going for, but, to see organized sports up there. I play bocce ball up there with my friends. There's a volleyball court up there. The field is really not that big, because you also have the walking paths that go around the field. You have seating out beyond the bocce ball courts. And I just would hate to see this, get that crowded and to have this there, because the fellow before me was talking about the parking on his side. Well, I'm on the opposite side. There's only two sides to go into that park, and the parking, there's not that much parking there at all. And the children up there, when I'm up there with my grandkids, they're, it could be full at times. So I really am asking you all to please consider this, that this is a gem. This park is awesome. It's little, it's not a big park, and to consider, please, to try to keep it the way it is today. Like I said, there's not hardly any parking there, and if you have sports playing there, you've got paths that go all along the park, very nice paths that go all along the park. So if you're playing sports there and a ball goes out along the paths, it could hit someone walking with their kids. They take strollers up there with their children and the parents, and there's kids playing all along those paths. So please take this in consideration when you are voting on this park. It's, like I said, it's a very small park, but it is truly special. And I would hate to change it. You have larger parks all around, I would think. And just to keep this in mind when you're voting for Flagship Park, I would really like to see it stay the way it is today. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Tobler.
Excuse me. Amy Tobler. I live 4019 Deer Chase. I live right next door to Scott. My house backs up to the parking lot on the Deer Chase side, which is a very small parking lot. And again, I just want to reiterate what Scott said about the parking issue. And when the cross-country team was practicing in the park, they had been there for a few years. And that team, they started out with maybe 10, 20 kids. But this past season, there were a very large group. And when they did run in that park, you could not walk on the sidewalks. They ran as a group, and they were all together. And it was, the park is meant for the neighborhood, for the people that live there. It is not meant for, bringing in organized sports. And I really would hope that you would consider that. If you could, can you change and hold off on voting, or you're going to vote anyway as it stands to allow whatever organized sports?
That would ultimately be up to council to either table it or take it off the agenda. That would be
because I really do
at
feel like
legislation time.
When the issue was brought up in 2010, I went to my neighbors because I didn't really even know about it until Scott told me last night. I went to my neighbors and we signed a petition. Almost every neighbor in the neighborhood did not want to see organized sports go in that park. And if I need to, I could do that again. But thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kyle?
When can we vote to table the ordinance?
It would be during legislation.
During legislation? Okay.
Yep.
That might be a pretty good idea.
Yeah, because I know that the individuals that were for the changes are not present and able to speak their mind, to be able to have some kind of conversation about it. So, I mean, that's not up to me, it's up to you all, so. Yeah, Mr. Hermes.
Oh. Vicki, I agree, and we can discuss it in legislation. I think that there's an opportunity to modify the prohibited games portion and rewrite this to make it more conducive, I think, to all parties involved. And like I said, I would support tabling that, but we'll cover that in legislation. I just think that there's some opportunity here for sure.
Mr. Hermes.
I think there's also opportunities. I mean, we've been talking about the parks in Erlanger in the Parks Master Planning Task Force. And, I mean, we have not necessarily been focusing on Flagship Park, but it sounds like it would be a really good opportunity to be able to table this and then bring it to the task force to talk about a creative way of trying to keep everybody happy.
That sounds like a nice idea. Okay. Okay, Ms. Kathy Kroger is next on the list. Oh, okay, okay. Ma'am, would you like to come to the podium and just please state your name? And your address as well. I'm just going to jot it down here.
My name is Kathy Foley. I live on Sycamore Tree Lane, and the closing of Erlanger Road / Sycamore would affect my family, plus the other kids in the neighborhood, the school bus. I sit out there now with my granddaughter, make sure she gets on the bus safe, and I sit out there, wait for my granddaughter, make sure she gets home, back to the house safe, because there's so much of things going on with children and everything. This world is crazy. I worry about my granddaughter. The school bus would have to pick them up on Fir Tree. It isn't like when my kids were young, there was a whole bunch of kids, they all went up together. There's 3 children that parents wait outside, or grandparents in my case, make sure they get on the bus. And it's not fair to have them go up there and we not know that they're safe. My grandchild is important. She's important to me, and so is the 2 other children that their parents outweigh, and it's not fair. And closing Sycamore, the bus would not be able to come down at all. We would not get the street clean, snow plowing and all that because of the closing, and it's not fair. And I'm just so angry. I've never had to come, 52 years, I've never had to come to a council meeting before. But this is important, and it affects our children. And you can make fun of me, I don't care. I see this talking about, I don't care. It's my granddaughter. That's what I care about. Thank you. I said my piece.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment. Yeah, the microphone's on, and then if, I have that seat again. You can tell me your name and your address, please.
Deborah Wesley, and it's on Fir Tree, 3345. So I didn't intend, I'm like Kathy, I've never been to an Erlanger meeting. This is really cool, you guys. I did vote. I do vote, so I probably voted for you guys. But I know Miss Foley. I've known her a long time. And my mom's sitting there. My mom has lived in Cherry Hill since 1967, the same house. And I lived there for 30 years, went to Carolina, came back 7 years ago. So I'm a little out of the loop of some things, but I'm catching up on what's happening. So I grew up in that neighborhood when it was first developed, and it was a beautiful place to grow up. There were creeks. The kids all played together. I came back here, and it's just it's almost like it's being neglected by Erlanger, I feel like. You know, the development of what's up there where Showcase was, I don't understand why there wasn't more foresight on this and another exit or something. When we try to go out, because we go out Sycamore too, we've gone out forever out that way. And when you go out there, the trucks just fly by. I mean, they don't have to stop, but we do. So that's a problem. The pollution, I mean, I'm in science, so the air pollution from those factories is unbelievable. I garden. I raise monarch butterflies. I raised 70 butterflies this year and released them in the yard. And I don't understand how they're able to put off all the pollution. Coca-Cola, I don't know what they're cooking, but they burn that stuff off. Wild Flavors is burning stuff off. And we're smelling it all. So I don't know what the air, I haven't looked up the air laws yet. But so anyway, the trucks haven't been an issue for me. I haven't personally seen the trucks, but I do know it's a problem getting out of there. There's 3 or 4, the light, you can't even get 2 trucks to get out of there. So something's going on there. And it's a great neighborhood that, you know, I just think it's being neglected between all of the air pollution, the light pollution from the factories, the light pollution from St. Henry's, those big, huge lights on those fields. I feel sorry for the people that are on that one street because they have those on late at night shining into their houses. So I just feel like, you know, and I had brought up the idea of making a park back there because I used to run back there all the time and hike in those creeks, and it was cool. It's been, since they've cut it off though, old kids got back there and did graffiti, and it would be a wonderful place for a park back there for trails and things, but I still don't think you should shut it off. I just think there needs to be another outlet for those trucks, especially if they're going to add more business back there. That can't hold all that there, so I don't know, it just seems like a bad design to me. So that's my piece. Thank you for listening. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming.
Okay,
Welcome.
thanks.
So I kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you stated. So the Houston North, starting this fall, they're going to be increasing the width of Houston North in order to try to tackle some of that traffic, because you're definitely right. Not enough people can get out of that light. I mean, you can get maybe 1.5 tractor trailers, and the rest of it's, you know, they're running the red light.
And if you're a car, you can't
Yeah.
see the light anyway, so it's a
Yeah.
hazard to get out.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard that from, you know, one of the larger businesses up there, Atlas Air. They have, you know, about 500 employees that are trying to get out. So it's definitely an issue. And unfortunately, we see this a lot of time where there's economic development that occurs. However, the infrastructure follows along later. And for some reason, that seems like an unfortunate scenario that keeps happening on a state level. So you have to kind of prove that you have a problem before it gets attention, which is very disappointing. However, it's just an issue that we deal with, and we try to make sure that we're communicating with legislators and having a voice down in Frankfurt to have our state funds allocated to our infrastructure. So definitely agree with you on that front, and we have, you know, Donaldson is actually going to be widened as well in the process of Houston North. That whole intersection is going to change and try to alleviate some of those traffic concerns. Hence why it's going to close down that area for a period of time. So it's going to change the traffic pattern for that temporary closure, and that's out of our control. However, it'll be able to see if there's a change in the traffic flow for the trucks. So we'll be able to collect some data with that closure. As far as the park, that's actually something that I was going to talk about in my mayor's report, because we were in the Parks Master Planning Task Force before this at 5 o'clock, and we were talking about how there was some misconception between the closure of the road and there being a park, and that they were mutually exclusive. And that is far from reality. The closure of the road was brought up as like a pure desperation, like to stop the trucks. However, that it's not a done deal. It's not even like, we haven't even researched that to understand it to the level that we would actually move forward and do it. So there is a master plan that is in the process with a company called Human Nature. And the goal of the master plan for Erlanger Road, so that closed off portion, so right at the bottom of Sycamore Tree, where the black property used to be, that runs all the way to Turfway. So it's like a prime spot for trails and connectivity. So a trail system, not only with a walking path, a linear park, and then being able to utilize the pieces of property that are along the pathway for either a dog park or a small nature center, or at least like a park shelter, utilizing the water, having to, yeah, exactly. So making it a part of the park. And one of the things that we've been talking about is the pollution.
Yeah.
And trying to do something there that offsets that. And, bringing in the Northern Kentucky Water District and bringing in SD1 and bringing in all these community partners to try and make that space an amazing, an amazing space that, when you talked about the potential crime issues, if you walk back on those trails right now, there's graffiti, there's shady stuff that's going on.
It wasn't like that 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It's only happened in the last 5 years, I'd say.
So one of the big motivations is bring it to life.
Yeah.
Let's make it something special. Let's make it something that's safe, that's policeable, so we can get back there and open it up to the public, where it's a lot less likely to do shady stuff when there's more people invited into the public space. So how, this is all part of that master planning process that Human Nature is going through. There will be a public workshop, just like we've done with all of our other master plans, where we invite the neighbors and we invite the stakeholders. Corporex owns a lot of property back there. St. Elizabeth, Toyota Bashuko, all of the businesses that are back there that desire walkable space for their employees. Everybody's trying to motivate people to get healthy and have, healthy habits and go out on your lunch break and take a walk. So creating this type of space is really a special idea and a special plan that we're working on.
So the only advantage of those warehouses is it blocks some of the highway noise. Is it possible to put up those sound barriers
We've
on
actually
part of
talked.
it, like they have out in Hebron and, Burlington and, farther down? Because the noise, because we're at the of the two highways, besides the airport now that rattles that windows.
Yeah.
Can you do anything about the noise, about the highway noise?
We've actually talked to Human Nature about that and figuring out creative solutions for some of that, the sound issues, the pollution issues. So that's built in. And what's fantastic about Human Nature is they are experts on this type of project. They are the best in the tri-state area, probably the best in the country, of doing a project of this magnitude. And all of the difficulties associated with that particular piece of property.
And the other thing is, with those warehouses and all those companies, should they not be putting money into it too, since they're causing part of the problem?
Well-
Have green on top of their buildings, or solar or something, can they not be a part of it?
We definitely want them to be a part of it. I would never force, but I can definitely go and present a beautiful project that we want them to take part in, and if they're willing to contribute in some fashion, awesome, because I would
I just
love
want to
that
say one
public-private.
last thing, is Cherry Hill is a great neighborhood. It was a great neighborhood. I just had my 40th high school reunion, and there were people from Cherry Hill there, and we talk about the neighborhood. And my dad died 10 years ago, and everybody in the neighborhood helped my mom when I wasn't here. Like, that's just kind of a neighborhood how it is. And I just feel like it's being neglected in Erlanger right now. You're building all around it and nobody's helping them. So I'm just grateful I can say that, so.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Of course. One thing that I've heard over the years and walking door to door in Cherry Hill, they want a park. They want
Yeah.
something for their
We
community.
always have, yeah.
And I'm bound and determined to make that happen for
My
you
dad
all.
built a ball field for the kids up on the hill before they developed all those new houses when I was little. He dragged something up there and made a ball field for the kids. Yeah, we never have had, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. That concludes public comment. Mayor's report, I'll keep moving because I've already talked quite a bit for City Administrator's report. Mr. Wolfak.
Thank you. I have just a few quick items. First, the financial audit field work is complete, so the audited financial data will be presented at our December council meeting. All right. The recent change to the alcohol sales ordinance is in effect. That allowed earlier retail sales of distilled spirits, wine, and beer on Sundays, starting at 6 a.m. The sales are now 6 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. every day of the week. So Sunday's the same as all the other days. This month, our Economic Development Director, Emmy Randall, proactively reached out to local businesses that would be affected by this change before its implementation. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gatlin?
We have several matters of legislation on tonight. It sounds like there's going to be a motion to table the second reading. When we do that second reading, just right before I do it, if we could just have that motion at that time. It sounds like there's a majority to do that. We also have a first reading of the noise ordinance. I'll discuss that a little bit more when we do it. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Kevin, do you have any capital projects?
Good evening. Capital projects, Jefferson Construction has completed Kappa Court with concrete replacement. They're about 75% complete with Sigma. Look to finish that up by the end of the month. And then Theta Court will start probably in the spring. Sidewalk replacement, Humphreys is still working in Zone 2. We met with PCA about our Public Works facility last month. We went over some of the specs of it with them. They're still working on that. They should have that done by, I would say by Thanksgiving. We'll probably review that again, and then we look to have that go out to bid early December. City beautification, we've completed the bright leaf bench and landscaping. I think it looks wonderful. A lot of feedback from it. I've heard about an Instagram with the bright leaf bench. So it's kind of taken on its own little thing there. We'll see us doing some more work at Bonded Lock. We're really going to concentrate on the fencing down there, and you'll see some hardscape going in on the side with some rock, and that going on here in the next month or so. Programming, leaf collection has started. Very heavy first week. Normally we fill maybe the box once through the whole first week. We dumped it 13 times this year for the first week. It was quite a bit. For the first week. Crews had to stay late. We had to send the second crew out one day to just keep on track with the schedule. But as of today, we are on schedule. So I think it has slowed down a little bit. I don't know if it's a good sign. Maybe it'll be slower at the end of the year. I don't know. We'll see. We are going through all of our winter equipment. Unfortunately, winter is approaching. Salt barn is full. We're ready to roll with all the salt, and we have 2,000 ton in reserve to order when we need it. All the fall arrangements have been installed. Kenny Allen's crew and the grounds crew installed all the fall arrangements with kale and cabbage, some pansies. You'll see it in the city building, and the 14 pots throughout the city. And then last thing I want to mention is on the 27th of October, we had a ribbon cutting down at Silver Lake for the completion of phase 2 and opening of the restrooms. Just want to thank all city staff who attended. It was very well attended. The VOX team attended, great help there. Radius Construction attended, and Regular Blacktop also was there. But it was very well attended, and I just want to thank all the support that we got, so thank you very much. That's all I have. Any questions? Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Kevin. Great job with the leaf collection. That's so amazing, and I know not a lot of cities offer that service, so thank you. I mean, and 14 loads, I mean, that means that people are participating. They're getting out there. That's really cool. All right. Are there any other department heads that would like to report? Kara?
I just wanted council to know that I put in updated financials for September on your desk, so disregard my second email. Thank you to Councilmember Meyer for reviewing my financials and making a note for me. So that's what I was just letting you guys know, to disregard my email and go with the financials that are on your seat tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Hoffman?
This month's Friendship Garden Wall recognition is David Hahn. Dave retired in 2020 after 38 years of dedicated service. Please check out our website under Friendship Garden Wall to find out more of all the wonderful things that Dave did for our community. Also, the Senior Thanksgiving Luncheon, we started taking reservations for that today. If you're a senior citizen, 65 years or older, and you're an Erlanger resident, please give us a call and we'll sign you up so that you can attend. The general government departments will be closed on November 24th and 25th of this month. And something that is new is your waste collection. If your regular day is Thursday, it will be collected this year. So make sure that if you have Thursday pickup, that you put your totes out the night before, because they'll probably start a little early that Thursday morning to collect it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Kathy? All right. You good? All right. Are there any reports from our task forces? Ms. Jasper Lucas?
Thank you. I'm going to give an update on the Cherry Hill task force that just met on October 20th. Some of the information I'm going to share is a little bit duplicated because there was so much feedback, but I still want to go through and give an update. First of all, I just want to thank council for supporting the creation of the task force, because I think we see tonight how important it is, and I think we saw at the task force how important this issue is. So a few things that came as a result of our task force meeting are that we're going to focus on the Boone County entrances that are Queensway Drive and Queensway Court, and engaging Boone County, because we've discovered that most of the semis are coming in through Queensway and exiting through the two Erlanger exits on Sycamore Tree and Peachtree. So we're going to be engaging Boone County leadership on signage and other things that they can be doing. We know that some of the things we've done are working, and we're going to suggest some of the same things to them. I appreciate the one resident, I'm not sure which one it was, that actually said she saw a Boone County deputy responding, which is something we've heard hasn't been happening, so I'm glad to hear that as well. The other things we're going to be doing, that we are doing, are focusing on updating the GPS systems with the correct addresses and actual locations for the Erlanger Commerce Center. As Mayor Fetty mentioned, and as several of the residents mentioned, there are numerous GPS systems. And as Officer Nezzi talked about in our task force meeting, the process to get these updated is kind of ridiculous, just because I don't know any other word to use for that. It's just kind of ridiculous. So just bear with us as we get those updated. One of the things that the police officers that are responding are doing is having a conversation with the drivers and asking them, what GPS systems are you using? Because there's really no better way for us to collect a list of these GPS systems. The other thing I want to mention is just, first of all, showing the appreciation for the city staff that came to our task force meeting and are working so diligently on this. The mayor mentioned, Randall, our director of economic development, is engaging the Erlanger Commerce Center and trying to figure out ways that we can communicate better with the drivers themselves, and possibly the signage at the Erlanger Commerce Center. We are going to be meeting again in December. We didn't want to meet again in November because we felt like 2 months was a good amount of time for us to communicate with Boone County, work on the updates to the GPS, communicate with Erlanger Commerce Center, and then meet again in December. I know there were some folks that expressed to me some disappointment with the meeting being at 4 p.m. the last time, and there's not a perfect time for us to meet, unfortunately. We can't accommodate everyone's schedule, unfortunately. So I apologize if it wasn't convenient for everyone. But I will say that I have personally received quite a few emails from residents who weren't able to attend a meeting or weren't able to come tonight that have provided feedback. Please keep doing that. The last thing I will say is continue to call 911. We cannot say that enough. If you see the semi, call 911. That's all you need to do. Report it, because if we don't hear about it, we don't know it's happening. And we want to stop it before they cause problems. So please continue to call 911. Please continue to send your feedback via email. Thank you.
Any other task force? Ms. Elmore?
So the Parks Master Planning Task Force meets at the beginning of most months. The mission statement for that is to create a roadmap to plan and develop Erlanger parks. Creating that roadmap requires a lot of open discussion that is constantly having moving parts and changes a lot. So a lot of the discussion that we have in the meetings, like we are thinking of doing this, but that could change the following month or in a couple months. And I don't feel that it's always productive to share what we might be doing, obviously, since it could change. What I do want to share some of the things that we are doing and we have done. Just like Kevin said, that we did just complete phase 2 of the Silver Lake project, and we had a ribbon cutting on Thursday. We are finishing up the construction drawings for Cahill Commons, which is also known as Rainbow Park. We are looking to go to bed in January with construction of phase 1 in the spring. That's a big deal. It's a lot of movement for one park. Our goal for that park, as long as the budget allows, is to complete it in 2 years, which is amazing. I cannot wait and hope to see that very soon. So those are the things for sure that are happening that I can share. I do type up the minutes, and when they are approved, they are welcome to the public to view as well, if you'd like to know more information on the might be's or some of the creative process or the ideas, which is a lot of what this task force is. So that's all I have to share for now.
And it's open to the public. So at any time that you want to be a part of the Parks Master Planning Task Force, so many of our wonderful projects that have come to fruition have come out of very creative and innovative conversation. Our Director of Public Works, Peter Glenn, he's never afraid to hear ideas and suggestions and try to make them happen. So it typically, the master planning typically happens the first Tuesday of every month at 5 o'clock, and we hold it at the Public Works office.
Also, if you have any questions about the parks, or if you have any ideas and you're able to make the meetings, you can always email me. It's ryan.elmore@thecityoferlanger.com. I love hearing about it. I love to have your feedback. I love to have discussions with you, whether they're positive or not positive. Feedback is a gift, and I really stand by that.
Thank you. It's ryan.elmore@cityoferlanger.com. And really any of our names, it's like jessica.fetty@cityofErlanger.com. So any of our names have the same. Oh, yeah, and it's also on the website. All of our email addresses and I believe our phone numbers are on the website as well. Alrighty. Ms. Hoffman, are there any bids tonight?
I have a report. On my task force.
I'm sorry.
It won't take long, I'll tell
Okay,
you.
sorry.
Today was the Kenton County Alliance meeting. It was held at the Shaban Gym, and it was more of an award ceremony and recognition. And our guest speaker was Attorney General Daniel Cameron from Louisville. And they recognized some Lloyd High School students, Dominique Barnett, Joseph Cooley, Lucas Cooley, Jeremiah Israel, Jaida Parrott, Isabella Rodriguez, Caven Rios, Ezequiez, E.J. Walker, Brian Perez Lopez. And lunch was served, and everybody just kind of sat around and just kind of talked and brought up some ideas and enjoyed themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody have any unfinished business to discuss? How about new business? Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Actually, I did have a conversation with some residents on Crescent Avenue. There's some concerns with 3226 Crescent Avenue and some potential codes violations and potential nuisance violations. I believe this is a sober living house, so I'm not sure who owns that or who's operating that at this time, but maybe something we could look into.
Have you brought this to,
I just got this yesterday.
Okay.
So I have not been able to bring this. I believe the police are well aware of this house. So,
Okay,
3226 Crescent.
okay, we'll take it offline and do some research.
All right.
Thank you. Any other new business? Okay. All righty. Legislation, Mr. Gatlin. Okay, Ms. Kyle.
I move that we postpone or table the ordinance repealing flagship park restrictions, the second reading. If we could postpone that, please.
And Ms. Elmore, do you second that motion? Okay. All in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. Motion carried. Oh,
We didn't have a chance to discuss
Oh,
that, but
I'm
That's
sorry.
okay, that's okay. Just one real quick thing I would like to say is that before you leave this evening, anyone who's here for the flagship park issue, if we could collect your emails so that we can make sure that you're part of the discussions as we move forward. Thank you.
okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Mr. Gatlin. Go ahead.
I didn't know if you were moving on to the next thing, because I have a comment about flagship.
Go for it.
I would like to put that on next month's caucus meeting. I don't know if that's just assumed that we would be discussing it at the next caucus meeting. This month, I'm sorry, not next month, this month. I forgot today was the 1st. And I guess we can have further discussion about it then. I have some specifics, things that we might want to integrate that are suggestions of mine. I don't know. Do you want us to give those to Jack offline, or?
We can just discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay.
From a practical perspective, I'm not a big fan of legislation going from one council to another. I'm not saying we won't do it, but I'm not a huge fan. If we make, and it sounds like we're going to make some pretty large changes to this ordinance, so it would require a new first reading in December. So the second reading would then be with the new council in January. I'm not a huge fan of going from one council to another, and especially since we're going from 12 to 9. My preference, again, you all can do whatever you all want on council, but my preference would be to just do a first and second reading with the new council.
So basically, you wouldn't want to do a first reading in December.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I got
saying.
what you're saying now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I understand. I'm sorry. I wasn't getting at having a first reading in December, and then I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking, what's the next meeting? We need to discuss this, because we clearly need to make some additional changes.
I got you. I was
But
just one step
that's-
ahead thinking that.
No,
that
no,
puts us
that's
on
totally
December and
fine. I had
January.
not thought that far ahead. Do you already have your Christmas list done? Like, good grief.
Hardly, trust me, hardly. I'm still doing Halloween shopping for trick-or-treaters. All right, next we have a ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, determining the standards for noise pollution and assessing penalties and fines. This is creating a new ordinance, which is going to create an objective standard for various noise violations. Basically, it defines unreasonably loud, harsh, or excessive noise as any noise plainly audible at a distance of 50 feet from its point of origin or emanation. Also, under Section 2, unlawful conduct, it kind of enumerates all the different types of noises that would be unlawful. There are a multitude of exemptions, including, obviously, for authorized emergency vehicles, any operation of aircraft, any noises emanating or originated from public recreational facilities for city events, noises originating or emanating from bona fide recreational facilities, civic organizations, charitable organizations, and religious organizations, and any school-sponsored events. This is just a first reading.
Okay, Mrs. Hoffman, if you can note in the minutes the reading of this ordinance.
All right, next we have a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determinations required by KRS 82083 for the sale or other disposition of property owned by the city. You can see attached to the municipal order is our two Dodge Chargers and 2 Dodge Nitros, which are going to be disposed due to age, condition, high mileage, and the disposal method would be sold by electronic auction.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this municipal order as read? Ms. Reckers, Ms. Kyle, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, are there any announcements this evening? Okay, seeing none, do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Ms. Reckers? Ms. Skidmore? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Have a good evening.